beautiful friends, I hope you're doing so well. Welcome back to my channel. I am coming to you live from quarantine. I really hope this ends soon. I'm Sarah Starlight, and if this is your first time to my channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the bell notification in the corner to be notified of future videos on my channel. So today's video is about something that I'm really excited to talk about, and that is the subject of self-love when you are first coming out. I always used to frame my coming out as coming out in 3 ways before I was officially this baby gay in the world. And so for me, first off, coming out to myself was one of the hardest steps I ever took. It was wrapped in a lot of pain and a lot of shame and internalized transphobia. 2 was coming out to other people was incredibly difficult because I wasn't sure how they were going to react. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to field a bunch of crazy opinions from conservatives. And 3, I had to come out to the world, which was really hard because coming out to the world means you might have to field even more greater questions about your own identity and who you are in more public places, and that was incredibly scary. And so initially, when I was first starting to come out, I actually had to really force myself to practice a ton of self-love because I was a firm believer that if I couldn't learn to love myself, I wouldn't be able to ever love anyone else. Because my hatred towards myself would infect my relationships with others, and it would infect my familial relationships, to say nothing of my romantic relationships. When I first started seeing my therapist in my late 20s, I had no vocabulary for what I was feeling or what I was expressing to myself. I knew that I had all these feelings that had been pent up for so many years, and this perspective, this inner self that I was begging to get out of me, but that I had nowhere to put it, and I had no words to vocalize it. And that was the worst part about it, was the fact that I had this awesome and amazing thing that I didn't know was awesome and amazing yet, and I couldn't express it to anyone. And so having a therapist that was able to provide me with an environment that I could express these things and start talking about it and start defining a vocabulary for who I was incredibly exciting. However, when it came time for me to start saying the words of who I am, saying the physical word was the hardest thing. And that took a lot of time for me to get to that point, saying the words, I am transgender. And for me, when I said those words, the insane amount of weight that was on my shoulders started to feel a bit lighter. Because all of a sudden, I now had a vocabulary and I could physically express that to other people. And that became incredibly exciting for me, because when I was able to start owning that experience, I could start taking control of it and molding it to who I was. And when I first started hormones, I started to experience this intense anxiety about the fact that they weren't working immediately and I wasn't looking like the most beautiful woman in the world that I knew I was. And so I resolved myself each morning to do just one simple thing: sitting in front of a mirror, looking at my body and saying, you are beautiful, you are amazing, and you are worth every minute of someone's time. Because unfortunately, I experienced puberty with lots of testosterone, and my shoulders are never gonna get any less wide. I'm never gonna get any less tall unless there's some crazy experimental surgery that knocks my knees down to nothing. But what I can do is work with what I got. And that was very freeing for me, because when I started to accept myself, when I started to love myself and tell myself that I am worth something, others around me started to believe it. And that was a big lesson for me to learn in a scary new world. Because here I was experiencing something for the first time, and all I wanted to do was share it with people. And by loving what I saw in the mirror, it gave me this inner fire to where I could actually express it to others. And this translates to anything in life. If you don't love the person you see in the mirror, it's going to make it hard for others to find that love in your relationship with them. By taking the time to discover things within myself, it made it so much easier to start clarifying what I actually liked. It doesn't have to be something that's strictly physical. It could extend to anything. What kind of music do I like? Where do I like to go? And so I began to ask myself some very scary questions. What does Sarah like? Who does Sarah like? And how am I going to achieve it? And so the answer to the first question was something that I'm still actually discovering to this day. Because for the first time in my life, I'm getting to know myself in a way that I have never been able to do. I'm getting to know what I like. And how do I go about that? By expressing it to others. And the answer to the second question was even scarier than that. Because before I started hormones, I could with 100% certainty say that I liked women. However, when I started hormones, something changed. I found that I started to appreciate men in the weirdest of ways. Their smell, the way that they looked, and their physical presence. It was incredibly terrifying. And this kind of experience had thrown my whole sexual orientation up to that point into chaos. Because I didn't, up to that point, think that I liked men. And by asking these questions, I was able to clarify that I actually don't like men at all. That I actually just like the masculine expression. That I romantically am attracted to women. And that's something I find that is ever evolving for me, because as I am getting to know myself, I'm getting to know what I like, and for the first time, I'm allowing myself to like it. And the answer to the third question, for me, it was starting hormones and starting my transition both socially and physically. For me, that's surgeries down the road. For me, that's becoming a parent and a partner to someone. And for me, that's a bevy of other things that I had listed out for myself. But it could be different for every single person. And when I started to ask myself these questions, and I was able to start finally kind of accepting myself and loving myself, I also encountered something that I didn't expect. Shame. Because for the first time in my life, I was caring about myself. And I had interpreted that as vanity. And from that point forward, I started to hate myself for discovering myself. And in thinking about this, it helped me discover that vanity is the byproduct of self-discovery. And it's okay to experience that. It's okay to think in vain terms in certain times. It's okay to allocate time for yourself. And for me, the definition of loving who I was is discovering who I was. Because telling myself that I was worth the effort and the self-discovery that came along with that effort was an emotional moment for me. And I've really characterized my first few years of transition by a ton of emotional moments. Because in allowing myself to be in that position, I was able to be vulnerable with myself, my realist self. And so that's what I want to encourage you to do. Even if you just want to do it by yourself, alone in a room, telling yourself that you love yourself, that you love what you see in the mirror. And this extends to all kinds of experiences across the LGBTQ+IA spectrum, because there isn't just one coming out. And you need to understand how to love yourself and how to accept yourself before you can start coming out to others. And so now I want to pass the conversation off to you guys. What are some ways that you guys came out to yourselves? What are some ways that you found self-acceptance and practiced self-love? Feel free to share your ways and ideas in the comments below. I'm Sarah Starlight, and if you like this video, please consider hitting the like button, and feel free to subscribe to my channel. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you guys tell yourself you love yourself, and I'll see you guys in the next video.